IVM.
You're listening to TFG Football.
Hello everyone, this is the TFG Indian Football Podcast. My name is Kevin. Joining me from Srinagar is Chiranjit. We will get to him. But it's chilly, it's cold, it's not really as chilly and cold in the I-League. It's not really chilly and cold on the podcast today because we've got some spicy action coming up. And we're talking about some interesting things that are lined up for Indian football. Obviously, we're talking about I-League, something about ISL, and majorly, we're talking about big news, the Hero Gold Cup. It's about the Indian women's national team playing an international tournament right here in India. This is big news for us. So that's all about all we'll be talking about, but heading in straight back to the chilly weather. Chiranjit in Srinagar, what are you doing there? How are you managing without a jacket?
Yeah, I do have a jacket, man. I wouldn't be alive right now if I didn't have a jacket. So, came here a few days ago. It was all sunny. It was a bit cold, but nice weather. But suddenly, if you were watching the Real Kashmir versus Gokulam Kerala FC game on DD Kashir or the YouTube channel of them, you could see the snow starting right in the middle of the game. And it did not stop for over 24 hours. So till last evening, there was snow around here in Srinagar. It has stopped snowing, but there's a foot deep snow everywhere. Literally a bridge close to where I was staying suffered some damage because of the heavy snowfall and blizzard. But we're making do. This is Indian football, man. One day you are playing in hot Odisha. Next day suddenly you are in -2 and playing in the middle of some snowfalls. This is what Indian football is supposed to be all about. A gigantic display of the diversity that we have got here in terms of people, in terms of culture, in terms of physical geography. Let's bring it all in. I would say, like, the one thing that ruins this I-League for me is Mohan Bagan is not playing well. But otherwise, this is literally the most fun I've had had covering an I-League ever and watching. It's literally, we're having the best season of all time.
Yeah, talking about Mohan Bagan, I think it's best we keep them aside, and I'm the most happiest. Anyways, Chiranjit does not have anything to put forward and to bring up topic unless it's some controversy. So let's keep Mohan Bagan aside for the moment. We're talking about I-League. Things are heating up at the top. We've seen a slight change in leadership right now. Chennai City are no longer at the top. We all heard about their partnership with FC Basel, and things are looking bright for the future of Coimbatore.
By the way, one correction I would like to issue here, Kevin. We are recording this at 11:30 a.m. on Friday, and 2 p.m. Chennai City are going to play Indian Arrows, and if they win, they will be back on top of the table. So don't count Chennai City out yet.
Right.
They're still very much in the run.
Right. And so the 16 matches is what Real Kashmir has already done with, and the latest win gets them to the top temporarily or not. We'll see after the game of Chennai City happens. But the situation here is three teams looking strong, looking not really ready to give up their spot, putting pressure on each other. It just makes I-League even more interesting all the while. We're talking about Real Kashmir being there on the leadership position, and what a way to get there. Snowy, extreme weather. It's raining as well. It's difficult for the pitch to have the ball flow around. We've seen a lot of aerial balls being used in play towards the second half. Chiranjit, you were part of that game. It looks difficult to watch. TD Kashir showed us the game. We had a live stream on the website as well. Looking at the weather condition, it really looked tough. How difficult it might have been for the players on the ground that day.
Yeah, I mean, imagine everything that you think about. See, if you are going in to play a match, especially at this professional level, you need to prepare for a certain kind of surface for the game to be played on. And if that surface suddenly changes on you because of natural reasons, all your plans that you came up with, all the homework that you did, just goes out of the window, doesn't it? When they were practicing Gokulam Kerala FC, they were preparing for a cold, but they were not expecting a wet surface. Like when they were practicing the TRC ground, I took a couple of walks. The surface was very dry. The grip was amazing. This is like one of the high quality turfs that we have in the country. But then the rain start. Nobody really saw it coming. Nobody could help. But the rain starts and the snow starts. And what happens when the snow starts falling in is that the grains of the snow, they stick on the artificial grass and they start melting. And immediately the slipperiness goes up. And because it was raining, there was a lot of water on the pitch as well. So you have suddenly players slipping all over the place. It's cold. If you are falling, you're hurting a lot more than usual. And also, the ball is not traveling. Like towards the end of the first half, I don't think the ball was traveling 10 meters. And you could see that in the second half, Gift Raikkonen brought in Suhair in the place of Deepak because he was trailing 1-0 and he needed to get a goal back. But he was trying to pass the ball to the winger or trying to receive a cross. The ball was just happily stopping midway. So Gokulam Kerala FC didn't have a game to go ahead with, and because they did not anticipate any of this, I don't think they really tried to practice on aerial balls or something like that, which is something you have to do. If there's water on the ground, you have to scoop it up. There's no other way to play. Right, Kashmir FC players, obviously it's not an alien condition for them, although a lot of the players were playing a match in snow for the first time. But it's not like they did not see snow around here before. So of course they were able to cope better. And Gift Raikkonen was talking about that after the match, that hey, when something like this happens, it's a huge advantage to the home team. But again, they can't complain. Nobody can complain. This is professional football. This is the highest level of Indian football. If you're playing here, you're expected to be ready for every condition. And it was not easy for the real Kashmir players also. They suffered due to the cold. They were shivering after the match. They had to turn on, like, I think 2 gas heaters in the dressing rooms after the game. And they really, the organizers took good care of the players because both needed some warm drinks and other little bit of pick-me-ups to just be themselves after the game, because literally they came in with frozen hands. So yeah, that's kudos to Real Kashmir FC for stepping up as the occasion was just changing on them, getting a victory, and now they are definitely in the conversation to win the league, which has never happened. No debutant has ever won the league, and Real Kashmir FC are giving a proper challenge for it, and that's beautiful to watch.
Yeah. Just staying at it, Real Kashmir are in the hunt, and so is East Bengal there. Played the same number of matches, that is 14 matches, as Chennai City. So before we get to East Bengal, Chiranjit, where do you see Real Kashmir headed? Do you still see them keeping points? Do you see them slip up? It's a time of the league where everything is going down to the wire. The team that blinks first, the team that misses first, is most likely to not get a second chance again, is because it's nearing the end of the league. You got about, say, 4 or 5 matches remaining, and any slip up is fatal for any other clubs running for the title.
Absolutely. I mean, Real Kashmir are going to face East Bengal next. So that's going to be almost a title eliminator by virtue. But just look at what Chennai City are doing. Like, one loss, that's not going to completely throw them off. They still got right now they've got 14 matches and 30 points. If they win today, beat Indian Arrows, they'll be on 33 from 15. That's back at the top of the table. And Real Kashmir have 32 from 16. So they'll not only do they have to keep winning the rest of the games, they'll have to hope and pray Chennai City drop points. Otherwise, they don't have a chance. Churchill Brothers have just got 1 point from the last 2 games, lost to Shillong Lajong. Who saw that coming? And they're virtually out. I mean, I could hear you smile there, Kevin. You must be very happy Shillong Lajong getting a win. But seriously, just talking about what East Bengal are doing. By the way, there's little bit of a question mark over whether the game will happen between Real Kashmir and East Bengal, because the latest news is Gokulam Kerala FC still have not been able to leave Kashmir because the flights were cancelled because of this bad weather. But hopefully, because the sky has cleared now, East Bengal will be able to get to Kashmir today, which will put them well on track to play the game. So hopefully it does not get cancelled, but it's still a possibility. But you were saying whether Real Kashmir or Chennai City will have the better shot. It's still advantage Chennai City, right? But if Real Kashmir go in and beat East Bengal, how do you count them out? Right? If they have won like two of the some of the most difficult battles, like Chennai City and East Bengal are their biggest title rivals right now. They beat Chennai City, they beat East Bengal. That just opens up the the door for anything to happen. Even if Chennai City Chennai City just dropped points against Real Kashmir. Who's to say they will not drop points again? Right. So nothing is certain at this point, and you literally cannot count anybody out. Last season, we had like 4 clubs going into the last day of the league, still having a chance, right? And Niroka made a record that they were debutants and they still had a chance to win the league on the last day. Maybe Real Kashmir will equal that record or better it. I mean, I certainly see them going into the last day with a chance to win.
Yeah, they're going strong, and it really looks a third season running where we've seen no clear winner emerge out towards before the business end of the league, and this again is looking like heading in the same direction. On that note, we will be taking a break, and on the other side, we've got a lot of things to talk about, something very interesting, something that needs to be talked about more often. We're talking about Indian football, but Indian football on the women's side. Great things happening for them. We will talk all about that on the other side of the break. Come back to us.
Hello, it's been another great week on IVM Podcast. If you aren't following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We've been running this thing for the last few weeks, and we're going to keep doing it. If you're listening to an interesting show that you're enjoying, pause it, take a screenshot, tag us on your Instagram story, and drop us a comment, and we will post that to our own Instagram story. So I want to tell you about a new show that we're launching. It's called Ganatantra. It is hosted by Saryu Natarajan and Alok Prasanna Kumar. They discuss how politics goes beyond intrigue in elections and its implications in everyday life. I think you'll really enjoy that. Also, starting on the 4th of February, we're launching a new show with Ambi Parmeshwaran. It's called The Sponge Podcast. He talks about all the invaluable lessons he learned from his 40 years of experience in advertising. Speaking of Ambi, he's also on the Filter Coffee Podcast with Karthik Nagarajan this week. They discuss the importance of data in advertising. It's a really, really insightful conversation, which I think you would enjoy. On The Seen and the Unseen, Amit talks to the legendary Tyler Cowen, writer of the renowned blog Marginal Revolution. They talk about his book Stubborn Attachments and Moral Philosophy. On How to Citizen, we're on Chapter 3, Why We Need a Parliament. Joining Meghnad and Shreyas for this episode is comedian Prashasti Singh. She brings her insight of growing up in Amethi and being witness to political theatre in UP. On the season finale of Echoes of India, we take a roller coaster ride through 600 years of Indian history and get a brief summary of the Gupta Empire. Look out for season 2 coming soon. This has been a great season of that show. If you haven't checked it out, you should check it out from the start. Now you can binge it. Here's what's in store for you on our regional language shows. On the Hindi film show Cinemaya, director Paromita Vora joins Swati to talk about her documentaries, her directorial decisions, and the politics behind camera. On our Marathi podcast Golgappa, Trupti is joined by actress Gitanjali Kulkarni. They talk about the charm of theatre and Gitanjali's NGO initiatives. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Welcome back after the break, and here we continue to talk about Indian football, but Indian women's football is something that we will focus on in this half, but it's not just discussion, it's something exclusive, something that we really look forward to getting you. And Chiranjeev was in conversation with two of the key figures in the Indian national side. We're talking about the national team coach Maymol Rocky and one key player, one of the most versatile players we've seen in the national team. We were mentioning about Dalima Chibber, and she's played for a lot of esteemed clubs, and this time it's the national team that is in focus. Chiranjeev, the Hero Gold Cup is upon us. It's just a time that we will see the team get to training, and Odisha is the state that is coming up with the support for the national side. We saw Indian Arrows making Bhubaneswar their home ground, and here we have Bhubaneswar hosting yet another major event. Now this time it's the first time that we will see an international women's tournament being hosted by India, and we have the likes of Iran, Myanmar, and Nepal coming into this. So, Chiranjit, tell us more about the exclusive chat that we had with these two ladies.
Yeah, well, we just managed to get some questions because they just assembled in Odisha, and it's so great to see. Like the only other time we had the women's team playing a high-profile tournament in India was SAFF Championship, right? Which is going to happen in Nepal this season. But before that, because we have a very important tournament coming up in the Olympic Qualifiers, AIFF decided to go and have a start a they have the Intercontinental Cup for the men. So of course, they should have a similar tournament for the women as well, right? It only makes sense. So they started the Gold Cup, and Odisha is hosting it, and it's brilliant, man. I mean, we when we heard the news that something like this was happening, there was just no limit to the joy that we had, because we just don't see the women's team in action often enough. Right? When last month they started playing friendlies, and that was the first friendlies they were playing in a couple of years, I think. So suddenly we are seeing high gear action. There's a new breed of talent that's coming in the senior national team. A lot of young players getting a chance, and Maymol Rocky was completely at the middle of it. She was taking charge, and I don't want to make like a apple to apples comparison here, but Stephen Constantine also did something similar when he brought in a lot of new players, and he had and he gave us 30-40 new debutants and pretty much a new look squad for the Asian Cup. So I wanted to ask Maymol Rocky about that, like what's the plan behind bringing in all these new players, and what's the target, because back-to-back major tournaments are coming up for India, the Gold Cup, the SAFF Championship, then we have the Olympic Qualifiers. So let's listen to what she had to say about what her experience has been with the team so far, and what can we expect from the Blue Tigresses in the coming couple of months.
Yeah, so you'll catch on to the fact that this is not a direct back and forth between me and Maymol Rocky and Dalima Chibber later on. Because of the communication issues that we're having here, what I did was I put forth the questions to them, and they sent me the answer, and we'll present all of those in the order that's necessary. So the first question that I put to the head coach was, what was the thought behind including so many young talents in the senior squad? Are you looking at this as a transition phase to prepare for a major tournament in the future?
Good to work with the youngsters, as you can mold the youngsters in the way your style of play. They are ready to go, they are all out. Definitely with these youngsters we will have a good bright future for sure. The girls can, if they continue the same way, the things are on for them, there will be definitely a change in years to come.
Did the recently held friendlies give you enough opportunity to test out new talent?
Playing this friendlies, the last 4 friendlies definitely helped the young squad to for us to set the teams, for the youngsters to have a good platform and an international platform to play. Definitely has helped us and the new girls.
India won all 4 friendlies. Did you expect the results going in, or did the players surprise you with their effort that they put in?
Definitely the 4 friendlies were, you could not say it was easy for us. Yes, it was difficult, but then it was not a surprise. The girls gave their heart out and they were ready to go, they were ready to play. So the results were definitely in our favors, but the girls really played good.
How important do you think such friendly matches are going to be in preparing for big tournaments like the Olympic Qualifiers or the Asian Cup Qualifiers?
Yes, these 4 friendlies were the first step. Now, there is this Hero Gold Cup. Then we are going to Turkey. So the preparation is on. Definitely the 4 win will give us more confidence, more, willingness to go ahead with a good positive note. For sure, this 4 friendlies helped us a lot and will keep us motivated in upcoming tournaments.
What do you think of the Gold Cup? Is it a good platform to test our players in a tournament setting?
Gold Cup, it's happening for the first ever time. So it's really good for us. First time ever the women team will be playing in India for a competition or for a tournament. For me, it's a really good tournament to test ourselves as good teams are coming up like Iran. That's the top team which has qualified from their group. Myanmar again was in our group, and that is also the top team which has qualified. And Nepal, definitely that's one of the countries which we fight for SAFF. So all three teams, including our team, we are all kind of in one level. So the tournament definitely will be a good platform for us to test ourselves.
You're in the run to win the first ever edition of Gold Cup and continuing a 100% championship record in SAFF Championship next month. Both will be historical if achieved. Do such major milestones motivate you and the team, or do you prefer taking it one game at a time?
For us, there are a lot of good plans coming up in this coming 4 months. But I think me and my team is looking one match at a time. For us now, the main milestone is Iran. We need to go through Iran to reach the finals of this Gold Cup. So we are just thinking about Iran, and we will definitely go step by step.
Which team do you think will give you the toughest fight in Gold Cup?
Tough fight. Definitely, we think all three teams will give us a tough fight. And we also, from our side, have been preparing for this tournament now. Coming back from this 4 win will give more confidence to me and my girls. Again, first match is Iran, so we are thinking about Iran first, and then step by step we will go to Nepal and then Myanmar. But definitely all three teams will be a better...
When you're picking new players for the national team, do you take into account the players' performance in IWL and senior nationals? And do you think such competitions provide you with enough data, or would you prefer if the players got more game time at the domestic level to make their case for the national team?
Definitely when we pick up girls, it is from nationals and IWL. We have more scouting program going on. We go to some states, we select players from the states. Interstate, they have this league between the clubs. Some of our scouts are going around watching them. So there are a lot of other platforms also, but definitely the main platform what we have is women's league, IWL, and the nationals. Girls getting more opportunity, definitely I would never say no. If there is more competition, yes, they should play.
Can you name a couple of players who impressed you most in the recent matches?
It's not couple of players, but yes, it's the 11 players who played, including the bench. Really, the girls all are the best players what we have in India right now, and who can really impress the people around India while the way they play. So do come.
So the Olympic Qualifiers will be a tough test for the team. What will your primary target be there? Can the fans dream of a top place finish in the group?
Olympic Qualifiers will be definitely a tough test for us, because for that we are preparing from last 4 months. And I think the girls, we all are preparing to go to the third round. So that's our dream. And let's keep the nation also in the same platform. Let the fans also do support us for this. We are preparing ourselves to qualify. Because of this, a lot of things are happening now. And I think we are really dreaming to go to the third round. And that's what all of us can do. And we are preparing for that.
Okay, that was the coach of the Indian women's national team, Rocky Maymol. And as we said, we will be continuing talking about another key player. But before we get to that part of the show, we would like to throw some light on the tournament that India would be hosting. It's Myanmar, Nepal, and Iran. We're talking about teams that have been a regular feature in the continental cups and the AFF, the Asian Football Federation for Women Championships, saw Myanmar do so well. They've been a regular feature, and they've also been champions in the past. So we're not talking about a team that is fresh into the scene of continental championship. So this is going to be a good test for us. Iran also, they've lined up some friendlies to come in before before and around the tournament. So they are also pretty serious on the front that this tournament will be a key as a preparation leading into the second round of the qualification for AFC Championship.
Well, you have to give AIFF a lot of props for organizing the teams in this tournament, right? We have India playing, Myanmar, Nepal, and Iran. Iran is a good opponent on any day, although they're ranked below us right now. But I think their ranking does not reflect the quality that they have. They've been getting some good results in the recent times as well. Myanmar, by the way, is ranked higher than us, and they just beat us back in November. Like a 2-1 game we had in the first round of the Olympic Qualifiers, and Ratnabala Devi scored against them, but 2 goals for Myanmar. I think Win Tiengi Tun had one, and Ninge Hatue got another goal towards the end of the game, and we lost it, and Myanmar topped the group. So getting them in is another good way of testing ourselves. Like we just lost to them, so can we come back and make a couple of improvements in the last 2 or 3 months? And now, how are we performing against them? That's a very interesting set piece that AIFF has lined up for the Indian national women's team. There's Nepal. And that also makes sense. We just drew a game against them. It's not like just because they're ranked below us and we've always won the SAFF championships that they don't give us any trouble, right? We got a 1-1 draw against them in November in the in the Olympics qualifiers. So having them back just before we're going to play them in Nepal at the SAFF championship, it makes absolute sense. And of course you're going to have in India have not played Iran for a while, I think, but just having them as a team that's going to be very different from the rest, and they will be coming in as one of the dark horses. It makes all the sense in the world. And you're not gonna see like the kind of games that you sometimes see in the qualifiers, the women's qualifiers, 7-0, 8-0. Just now, I think Iran played Syria and beat them 12-0, and before that they played Singapore and beat them 6-0. It's not gonna be. You're not gonna see like one-sided washout games. It's always going to be very, very challenging, and every single game that India will play will test them. And it's literally, I mean, usually we criticize the AIFF a lot, but in this case, nothing bad to say about them. And this is perfect. If we saw AIFF taking care of the Indian women's team like this 10 years ago, maybe we would be playing in the next World Cup, right? They just never had the chance until now to test themselves and really improve themselves. What do you think, man?
We talk about more matches required, competitive, not competitive, friendlies are required. I think more of what's what is in need is more domestic games, because we've really seen a lack of domestic matches for the Indian women's team. The IWL also is not really a tournament that really puts everybody to the test. So firstly we've got
it's too small. I mean, I agree with you. It's just we need a 4-5 month league, like at least 5-month league for the women. The IWL is a good first step, but man, it's not enough games.
But again, we talk about the top. It's not really at the top that matters a lot. We really need to see state leagues, local leagues to be giving up the players to the national side, and that's always been the reason that we don't see enough numbers up there, because if there's no pushing from the bottom, we see the numbers being dwindled down from by the time they reach a national scene. And but this is how it is. Things are taking a change, and the change looks for the betterment of Indian football. So here it is, and the second part of the show, as we mentioned, Dalima Chibber is also in conversation with Chiranjit. Chiranjit, we're talking about a key player in the Indian team. She has played different roles in the team. She's also part of the clubs that do play at the IWL.
India Rush. India
so
Rush
she's moved from FC Pune City to India Rush in the last IWL. So this is Dalima Chibber in conversation with Chiranjit.
So Dalima, how did you get into football? When did you first realize you had a future playing this game at the highest level?
Initially, I started with athletics. My father, who's also my coach, has a club for boys and girls both. So when I used to tag along with him on the field, I used to see boys playing every day. And one day I just tried the sport and I enjoyed it. And that's how it all started. At the age of 13, when I got called for the youth under 14 national team, that was the time when I really wanted to carry on with the sport, even though back then it was still not known, and football as a sport in women was not that known. And I did not think of taking it professionally back then, but that I just did not want to leave the sport, and I wanted to carry on playing.
Was there family support behind pursuing a career in football?
There was family support, although there have always been times when my parents have asked me to take up athletics because that is an individual sport, and considering more scope in that sport, as football was not that known back then. But now when I see, now my parents and everybody around me is very supportive in letting me pursue football.
What has changed for the players with the advent of IWL? Is it a viable option that lets players have a busy training and competition schedule as professionals?
With the coming of IWL, I think a lot has changed for the players. First of all, that it allows the players to have a lot of more matches in a very competitive environment. And also it allows the youngsters who are coming up and taking up the sport to rub the shoulders against the more experienced players in the field. Not only that, it also motivates them to take up the sport, and it provides them with a view that how how a woman athlete can take up the sport, and what are the scopes ahead in football, taking it up as a career. Moreover, it has also brought women football into light, and people have become aware of it, and they have started noticing the women athletes who have taken up football as their sport and who want to take it as a career.
So tell us the moment that you got the national team call up. How did you and your family and friends react to it?
The moment when I got the first call for my national team, that was when I was 13 years old for the U14 national team. So I still remember the entire scene. I was on the field, we were training, and my father got a call saying that your daughter has been selected to be the part of the national camp for under 14, and the team will be traveling for the AFC Women's Football Festival to Sri Lanka. And so in the middle of the training, he called me and he was like, what is your dream? And I was like, if I could play for my country and represent my country in the highest competitions. And he was like, you've got a chance and you've been called up for the U14 national camp. And that moment, I just broke down into tears and I hugged my father so tight, and my father was just so happy that even he broke down into tears a bit. And all my friends who were training with me at that time, all of them came running, some of them jumped on me, and everybody was very happy. And I still remember the day before I was leaving, everybody got a huge cake which said congratulations Dalima, and they got a big card, they made a big card congratulating me and wishing me all the best, and that is how it was.
how have the recent friendlies helped prepare for this tournament, the Gold Cup that's happening in Odisha?
The recent friendlies have been a major boost for us, mentally and physically both. It has been a huge learning step for us, and the exposure has made us more confident, and I feel now we're more ready to accept all the challenges that are thrown at us on the field, and to be ready to give it our best shot on the field.
Are you optimistic that India can push up the FIFA women's rankings, beating teams like Myanmar and Iran?
Definitely. I feel after beating teams like Myanmar and Iran, we can and we definitely will push up in FIFA rankings. And all thanks to AIFF for organizing and putting in so much of effort for organizing the friendlies and organizing a tournament like Hero Gold Cup in India itself and providing us with all the matches against the tougher sides. I feel it will definitely help us in the long run, as well as also help us push up our ranking.
India will play 2 tournaments back to back. What are the chances of winning both trophies?
I feel the more the matches, the better the chances of winning the trophies. And with all the exposure that we are getting right now, and with back-to-back tournaments, I feel it will just add on to our strength, and it will also help us to be more ready and more aware of the situations and circumstances in the field. And it will definitely improve our chances of winning both the trophies and to put out our best on the field.
India have always won the SAFF, and this is the first edition of Gold Cup, so winning both will be setting and adding to historic records. Do you think about these milestones, or as you approach the tournaments, or do you prefer to focus on the game at hand?
In the longer run, we do think of setting and adding to the historic records. But as we approach a tournament, we focus on the game at hand, and we plan to do the best that we can in the game that we have coming up at that particular point, and then we move on to the second game, because that ways our focus is not only at the main goal that is there, but it is, I feel, very important to focus what you have right now and the situation that you put in right now, which is the particular game that you have to play, and you get the best out of that so that you can ultimately achieve the bigger goal.
Are you looking forward to the Olympic qualifiers? What do you think personally that India should target there, given they will go up against teams that have beaten them recently?
I am definitely looking forward to the Olympic qualifiers, and I personally believe that we will be targeting for a win. We will go there to qualify to the next round. And given that AIFF has provided us with so many opportunities with the exposures and the friendly matches, and they were all organized against the teams who have qualified for the second round, which are Hong Kong, Indonesia, Iran, Myanmar, Nepal, the latter 3 teams which we will be facing now. These are also the teams which have qualified, and right now when we have been given a chance to play against them and go against them, I think it will definitely help us in the preparation for the Olympic qualifiers round 2. And when we go there, we will definitely want to qualify, and we will our main focus there will be to go for a win, and that is what we will go ahead with in our minds.
All right, you heard her, and she's excited, and so are we. But the excitement should be doubled for Dalima. The reason being, she is playing at Odisha. She's a homegrown player there, and what more joy to see your own crowd come and watch you. And she's well known in the state. She's done a lot of good, and she's an inspiration for the upcoming generation of girls. So Chiranjeev, this is going to be a great experience for her, her supporters, and for the state as well. We talk about Odisha bringing up some major tournaments. We had the World Cup also in hockey that was hosted. So this is great going, and when you see a state being into the limelight so much, and it just makes sense to have a tournament right there.
Yeah, Odisha has been at the bang in the center of the women's football scene for a while now, because you remember the first edition of IWL. It was won by a club from Odisha, Rising Students Club. And a lot of the players that you see in the national team right now are coming from that club. The club had some tie-up with Tata Trusts and just put together some of the best talents in the country. And of course, Odisha government is also, they should get a credit for that, making the ground available for cheap so that more and more action can take place there. And it's good that the Kalinga Stadium is really good quality surface. The facilities are top class. It's international game capable. I think we're going to see the national men's team also in action there at some point this year or next year. So all in all, it makes perfect sense for the tournament to be held there. And and the local fans have extra reason to come in and see, because players like Dalima Chibber, who are the biggest rising stars in Indian football right now, they're local players. It's great to see them getting the chance to showcase their talent in front of their own state crowd. So it's brilliant, man. I mean, this tournament is near perfect in every single way.
Yeah. And just to put it across, the team will be playing the first game on Feb 9th, that is tomorrow, 7 p.m. game. It's a kickoff, it's a late evening kickoff. They will be playing Iran, not before the first game sees Myanmar and Nepal in action at 4 p.m. So watch out for that. I hope we have some coverage on television.
There should be a live stream.
Yes, and that's what's required, because it's how everybody consumes now as of today, and if it's live stream, I think it just reaches out to more and more audiences.
We need them on TV, man. We do need them on TV. Like, this is a Gold Cup. Maybe they're testing the market with live streams and stuff like that. There will be these games, when these international tournaments happen and the Nepal national team plays, channels in Nepal pick it up, man. They show their national team, because the entire country comes behind and supports their team. So why can't we have the same? Maybe if we get good response on the live stream, maybe we'll have Star Sports or some other networks considering picking up the national team in SAFF Championship or Olympic Qualifiers. Olympic Qualifiers is already produced for TV, so maybe somebody will just pick up the feed and show it. I mean, we do want to see our women footballer in action on TV, man, because live stream, those who are hardcore fans will find it, and some people like us will share the link all over the place, and more people will tune in. But on TV is when you catch the mass audience, and it needs to happen. It's time, I think.
Yeah. So we will get you updates as and when it comes across. So do follow us on Twitter @TFG Football. And if you're listening to this podcast on YouTube, do not forget to like, share, subscribe. But also do not forget to download IVM Podcast app for more such awesome podcasts like the TFG Podcast. It's available on Android and iOS platforms. This podcast is also available on other platforms like SoundCloud, iTunes. You can check it out on your favorite podcasting platforms. Till then, another episode. We will take a leave, and we will come back to you next week. Have a great week.
Every week comes a show where three people come together to tell you about stuff they like. A movie, a TV show, a book, and other stuff. Tune in every Monday on the IVM Podcast app to IVM Likes. Batman approves this message. Thank you, Batman.
Advertising is dead. Yep, you heard me right. Advertising is dead. We're all in the content business now. Let's not call it news, TV, radio, etc., etc. It's all content, and we're in the middle of this weirdly exciting phase where all the borders and lines that have been drawn over decades has been swept away by this lovely thing called the internet. We're a show where we don't dwell on just the stuff that is now, but rather the wider stuff about advertising, media, content, and the whole goddamn circus surrounding it. Tune in every Tuesday for our weekly unboxing of the mystery box we used to call advertising. I'm Varun Dugirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and this is my new podcast, Advertising is Dead.